As defender of the faith, the obligation of the king is to ensure that the soul of each and every subject of the crown is acceptable to God the Almighty upon the death of the person of that soul. This is whether you believe in God or whether you accept the existence of God. It does not matter whether you hold yourself out as Catholic or Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or adherent of any other faith, or whether you deny the existence of God. The fact remains that the crown answers personally to God for every soul of the kingdom. That is the basis of the divine right of the king. That personal responsibility of the crown to God is the basis of all our law. Notwithstanding that the House of Windsor is a constitutional monarchy, the role of the king as defender of the faith by his right is what is behind all our law, indeed the origin of all modern commerce, within the kingdom and abroad. In ancient times, a holder of an interest in land would transfer that interest by handing some of the soil of the land to another person, such transfer, witnessed by a priest. It used to be that a landholder was required to provide military service to the crown in recompense of the right to have the crown protect the land interest. If the king required the landholder to serve in war abroad, but the landholder had young children, then the landholder could transfer the interest to another person to hold the land on trust for the children pending their majority. If that trustee refused to yield the interest to the children, the crown would enforce the obligation. That is the origin of the law of trusts. Contracts are enforceable because of the power of the king to require a party to the contract to meet its obligations under the contract. Ultimately, if a party to a contract refuses to oblige the terms of the contract and refuses to submit to and follow the order of a court seeking to enforce a contract, that refuser may be subject to a writ of contempt issued under the seal of the king and imprisoned until the contempt is purged. That is, until the defaulting party agrees to meet his contractual and legal obligations. That authority of the king to cause the issue of the writ of contempt and others like it is an essential exercise of the divine right of the king. After all, it is a sin to break your promise. And because the king is personally answerable to God for the purity of the soul of every subject of the crown, no subject of the crown may be permitted to be presented to God after death with his soul stained by sin. Likewise, it is a sin to assault another person, because such assault molests the God-given right of the person assaulted to carry his person according to the free will granted by God, subject to the law, that is, subject to the king's peace. Every officer of the crown is delegated by a writ of commission issued by the king to perform the duties of the crown. All laws issue from God. In respect of human laws, the king is the agent of God. In the constitutional monarchy, the king agrees to be bound to delegate to the parliament many powers, including the right to enact statutes and form responsible governments. The king agrees that the parliament exercises the power to levy taxes and to appropriate the revenues from those taxes for the purposes of the kingdom. Similarly, the faiths, the denominations, maintain their bishoprics and imamates and other offices by the central divine right of the king in his personal responsibility to God the Almighty. The responsibility of the king in exercise of the divine right is the most burdensome obligation. After all, the king will claim your sin on his soul before letting you go to God. So when we say, God save the king, it is a prayer for redemption of each of us, as well as the person of the monarch. God save the king.